So far we've only spoken about major, minor, and diminished triads. In this video, I'll first take you through the process of creating modifications to a chord by inverting the notes, and why you might want to do this. Then I'll show you how to get smooth and jazzy with 7th and 9th chord voicings. Let's start with inversions. Just as the name implies, we're actually flipping the order of the notes to create a different feeling without changing the notes used in the chord. So, looking at the C major triad, we can create the first inversion of this by just simply moving the lowest note of the chord up an entire octave so that it sits above the 3rd and 5th. This can be done really easily in Ableton Live by just clicking on the MIDI note, holding Shift, and then pressing the up arrow once. This is now a C major chord first inversion. We can make this a second inversion by moving the lowest note again, which is the 3rd of the C major chord, up by an octave by just repeating that previous technique. So now the 5th of the chord is the lowest note, and our chord is now a C major second inversion. So you might wonder why we'd want to do such a thing. Well, it's a useful tool for smoothing out the movement between notes in a chord progression. Typically it's most pleasing to the ear if a note doesn't have to move a great distance to get to the next chord. So using the 1-5-6-4 progression as an example, we could invert the first chord and the last chord to bring all the notes just a little bit closer together. And this is what we get. In comparison to what it was before, it sounds smoother, doesn't it? We can make quite a few variations to this progression by simply inverting the notes of the chords. Okay, let's get jazzy. So we know how to create a triad, which is a chord made up of 3 notes, the root, the 3rd, and the 5th, skipping a degree in between each note of the triad. Now, what if we continued this pattern to the next available note in our scale? This would be called adding the 7th to the chord, making our C major triad into a C major 7 chord. It sounds pretty jazzy, doesn't it? The added dissonance of that added 7th gives that chord a chill and vibey quality. Okay, let's continue the pattern even more by skipping a degree again to add the 9th. This is now a very complex chord that contains 5 notes. The dissonance of these added notes can really be seen and heard when you drop the 7th or 9th down an octave. Now, referring back to that interval chart that you hopefully have printed out and have next to you right now, you can see how these notes are creating some minor and very dissonant intervals. If you were to create a chord progression using only 7th chords, it might be a great start to your next chill hop banger. Finally, let's talk about augmented chords, which are similar in action to a diminished chord, but instead of stacking 3 notes 3 semitones apart, the augmented chord is made up of 3 notes each 4 semitones from one another. An augmented chord can sound dreamy or mysterious. Alright, that's it for this video. In the next one, we'll talk about beat subdivisions. See you there.